Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We thank you so much for y'all coming out to our April board meeting of the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District. As we always do, we'll start the meeting off with a moment of silence. Amen. Now we'll begin with roll call. Vice Chairman Pantazis, he's actually out of town today. Commissioner Thompson,
Present.
Commissioner Barnes,
Present.
Commissioner Lewis. All right, seeing that we have 3 commissioners here, we have a quorum. Council, we're good to start, right?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, you have the agenda. Actually, we have a revised agenda. Please take a look at the agenda. If everything is in order, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adopt the agenda as printed. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item passes. Now we have the approval of minutes. Since our last meeting, we had a regular meeting on March 1st, as well as the special public hearing that we had on March 21st. With that, commissioners, if you have an opportunity to look over the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve the minutes from regular board meeting March 1st, as well as the special public hearing on March 21st. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes. Thank you. And now President Foster will entertain any old business that we may have before Housing Authority.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Attorney Ford, and all that are present today. There were 2 items that were from the old business that I want to mention. And one of those items is today is the kickoff for us visiting other sites that we have our board meetings. We prepared a schedule to have board meetings at our other sites up to the month of September. So those locations will be on our website, and also we would have those on the Google Calendar for our board as well.
And we are really excited by this. I know our newest commissioner, Commissioner Barnes, had really asked about us being able to go out into the community. I think we've done this in the past. I don't know that we've done it since I've been on the board, but I'm really excited that we'll start having the board meetings out. More importantly, because hopefully COVID is in place now and we can actually get out and be amongst each other. So really excited about the schedule that we have going forward.
The other item we had under old business was the moving to work. We were, ATB requested a briefing from our moving to work team. And so we applied under our landlord cohort. But when we received response from the team, they indicated that there was no need for a debriefing because our application was successful. It had no issues. The agency under the MTW, there were only 3 slots for our size, our large agency. And so 2 of those slots were for the rent cohort and 1 was for landlord. Again, we're applying under landlord. And so because it was 1 slot available and multiple PHAs applied, it had to go on the lottery. So we wasn't chosen based off that. So, but we are being alert for the next rounds coming up. Unfortunately, the next round is for small housing authority, so we won't be eligible. But following that, we'll stay alert to see how we can apply in the future. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Foster. Any other old business to come before Housing Authority? If not, new business, President Foster.
I don't have any business.
No new business? Okay, well, we'll go to interim president and CEO's report.
We first want to thank the Board of Commissioners and the Resident Advisory Board for supporting the annual plan. The annual plan was submitted to HUD on Thursday, April 14th for review and approval. Our local HUD office have 75 days for their approval. And once we receive response, we will provide updates to the board once that is received. HABD partnered with HUD to host a virtual career fair on Wednesday, April 6th, with the presence of the Regional HUD Director, Jose Alvarez, and State HUD Director, Ken Freeman. There were 12 resource and job partners available to present to approximately 100 HABD residents. Currently, there are 8 candidates who have gone through interview process for hiring. HABD procured a finance consultant team to assist with year-end closing and budgeting activities. We will schedule a work session with the board to discuss those items before the June board meeting. Mayor Randall Woodfin and his Magic City Recovery Team engaged several agencies, the board chairs and CEOs around the table to discuss catalytic investment opportunities in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act during the bipartisan infrastructure law grant. Chairman Hood and myself joined the team to engage in this great opportunity. We're currently preparing a priority list of 3 projects to share the team for consideration. HAB was awarded $820,000 to assist residents that are behind on their rent due to the impact of the pandemic. The city has approved the first funding allocation to assist 120 residents with their past due rent. The first approval is an amount of $200,688.06. The month of March was Women's History Month. The Community Affairs Committee nominated me as a recipient for the Women's History Month to celebrate women on their achievements in serving their communities. I was not able to attend the event, but I want to thank Ms. Myrna Jackson and her committee for the honor. The Office of Constituents of Concern received 45 concerns, 25 concerns were for Section 8 and 20 concerns for housing operations. A completion rate of 100 was achieved for the period. I want to state with HABD's deepest sympathy, it is to inform the board of a passing of one of our dedicated employees who served over 14 years with the agency as a property manager. He was in our housing operations department. He managed several properties as Morel Todd Homes was our most current that he served. Our prayers with the family and staff at HABD as the services are today. Grief support is extended to all HABD employees during this time. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And then we also did a proclamation, right, on
We did.
behalf of the agency
We
that we
did.
give to the family. Okay, great. Thank you for that report. Right. Any questions for President Foster, commissioners? If not, we can go to the financial services report, President Foster.
Michael Jones, CFO.
Thank you, Chairman Hood, Commissioners, President Foster, and most importantly, our residents of HABD. So we're going to talk about the low-income housing, public housing financials today. And there are 4 key areas that I'd like to address. As soon as the numbers come up, I'll move. So of the January financials, we did a budget to actual report as of January 31st, 2022. I would compare that to the budgeted numbers for January 31st, 2022, which resulted in our variance. We also put in the previous month reporting for analysis purposes. So you'll also see column M, December 31st numbers. So there are 4 areas of concern when we compared budget to actual that I thought were necessary to explain today and expound on. So we're going to talk about first, well, let's look at the utilities variance. That's $475,959. That comes from a budgeted amount of $654,167 and an actual of $178,208. This line represents utilities, sewer, water, power for all of our properties across the agency. What is significant here is you'll see in December, there was a big number and an amount, 1.29 million of expenditures for utilities. And then January takes a deep dive, and that brought out questions and concerns that I thought necessary to explain today. So, of course, December being the last month of the year, we do a catch up on financials, on financial statements. And so we also have to make sure all expenses are posted in that last month of the year. Also, there were some lags in one from BWWB and also from some internal documents that needed to be cleaned up by the end of that month. And so we did a catch all at year end to post all those expenditures. So they show a lot higher than normally they would in that month. Let's go down to total maintenance. So okay, yeah, come up to maintenance, please. Okay, so the next of the four items is going to be our maintenance line. Excuse me. And so you can see the budgeted amount is 1.2 million, much larger than what we see as actual in January and actually actual in December as well. That is because the original budget in 2022 fiscal year, we put in an additional amount of maintenance expenses in this line, anticipating deferred revenues. And so when we do the next fiscal year's audit, not audit, budget for 23, this line will be budgeted properly. And so the budget amount will be more in line with actuals, and this will go away in the next 5 months of the year. So this will go away when we do the 23 budget. Okay, so we don't have our highlight here. So let's go to protective services. You need to go over. There you go. There we go. Okay. So protective services, you can see there's a sizable variance there, but from budget to actual. And those amounts are because we're still pending invoices and we're working on contract relations with BPD. And that's an ongoing process, and that should be shored up here shortly. The last line, we'll try to, if you can scroll down if you can, the last line is our insurance line, which shows an amount budgeted much less than the actual expenses. And what happens there is, so we were with an insurance company that had a much higher premium this fiscal year, but fortunately we were able to get back into our risk pool of insurance that's going to knock down our expenses tremendously. I mean, 2 or 3-fold. And so that's going to change our budgeting going forward, and we'll have much more reasonable insurance expenses. Any questions on the 4 items from the budget to actual report?
Excuse me, any questions, commissioners?
I was just interested, in terms of, I want to say it was the variance on the utilities.
Yes.
You were saying that part of the reason why that number was so large was because we were basically capturing, I'm assuming, payments that we did not make earlier in the year, or?
So yes, so if I may, so the month in question is October. There were a stack of invoices from October, actually bills from BWWB that didn't get entered until December. And that was to the tune of 730,000, but that's across all of our properties.
Okay.
So that made the
without
big jump in
waterworks.
December. So we make sure at the end of December, we catch up all expenses to get ready for the new year. And so that's kind of what brought that big amount on.
Okay. But that's not a normal occurrence.
Oh, that's definitely an anomaly,
Okay,
definitely. This is why I thought necessary to bring it up today to explain it, because this is not normal.
okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions, commissioners?
So next, we're going to move to approval for charge offs. As soon as the screen comes up, this will be for the months of February and March. All right, so we're going to do charge off this month for February and March. Charge offs are delinquent rents at our properties. And so each month we do a rent roll and we actually do a physical check to see what apartments are vacant. And at that time, we determine what rents are owed at that point by month. Calculate a write-off amount based on rents owed or / bad debts owed. And then we do have a collection agency that goes out and tries to recoup some of those funds. And so that's what you see displayed here. So we'll go through each month's write-offs, and then how much was recouped for those months combined. So in February, you'll see there were $87,745 in rent collections, write-offs, along with another $3,149 that goes to maintenance charges. We retained $1,750 of that in security deposits for a total of $89,144 for the month of February as charge-offs. If you move to March, there were $26,200 of rent charge-offs with $5,379 of maintenance and legal charge-offs. We retained $362 of security deposits for those March charge-offs for a total of $31,217 in charge-offs for the month of March. If you combine the 2 months, you have $120,361 of charge-offs. We've got a collection effort that has brought us for the months of February and March combined, $41,670 of those dollars back for a net write-off of $78,960. After any questions, we'll ask the board approval for this move.
Any questions, commissioners, regarding the charge-offs?
Well, I guess I do. I just noticing that several of the properties don't have any amount, so I would assume that means that, well, I guess my question would be, I don't think I've ever seen it where there's been like no amounts. Is that because we are providing more services, or what would get the other locations to be at zero? I guess is my question.
Which locations are you
Well,
referring to?
unless I'm looking at this in actual.
Benjamin Green and Roosevelt.
This sheet here.
Smithfield Court, Harris Homes. Which are-
Okay, I see now. We're looking at the same report. So your question was, what can we do to pretty much make this go away? To make it zero at every agency? Well, there's a lot of different factors that go into this. One is sometimes we don't know when the unit has been vacated. And so once we find that out, then that's when we determine what's owed. And we don't know sometimes until we actually go make a physical check. And so that's the one issue. I think that going forward, we do have, as Ms. President Foster mentioned, we've recouped some funds from the city of Birmingham that will allow us to help offset some of these funds through the Magic City Development Corps.
So Commissioner Thompson, most times there are no vacancies during that month. You don't see those charge-offs.
Got it, okay. That's it, thank you.
You processing, Commissioner Barnes? Okay. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Jones before we call for a board action? Have you called for the board action?
I did, I will again.
Okay, no, you go.
Okay, sure.
Commissioners, I will entertain a motion to approve charge-offs for the month of February and March.
Motion to approve the charge-offs for the period ending in February 2022 and March 2022.
March 31.
I'm sorry.
March 31.
March
right?
31.
Mhm. That was a second, Commissioner Barnes. All right, it's been moved and properly second that we approve the charge-offs for both February and March 2022. All in favor, let me know by saying aye. Any opposed? That item passes. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anything else?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, we're now going to our procurement board actions. These are the solicitations that require the board's approval before we entertain a contract as a result of these solicitations. And so I'll go through them individually with reading the board action, and the resolution is also you have a copy of where we're requesting acceptance on each of these. So I'll read the board action and the resolution after each, and I guess you guys can do that in one swoop at the end if that works. So our first solicitation that we have ready for the board to approve and to allow us to engage in a contract will be for the McCoy Building renovation. All right, this is the request for board action, approval of board of contract for McCoy Building roof renovation. The Housing Authority of the Birmingham District requests bids from the qualified licensed firms to provide roof renovation work for the McCoy Building. The purpose of this request for board action is to obtain board approval to proceed with the recommended firm to provide roof renovation for the McCoy Building. An invitation for bid was published to secure qualified and licensed firms for the renovation of the roof at the McCoy Building. The IFB was posted for 50 consecutive days and emailed to 1,311 contractors or individuals with 36 viewers. In addition, it was available in the HABD central office, posted on HABD and Housing Agency Marketplace websites, and advertised in the Birmingham News and the Birmingham Times. 4 firms, Eminent Development Corporation, GKL Companies, PCA Group LLC, and Rainbow Pipe and Metal, submitted a response to this IFB. The bids were evaluated, resulting in GLK Companies, Inc. submitting the lowest, most responsive and responsible bid in the amount of $481,680. Therefore, management recommends that a 1-year contract be awarded to GKL Companies, Inc. for the renovation of the McCoy Building. You can see here that certification has been affixed with the signatures of myself and President Foster. And here you see the resolution asking for the board to move on this particular item. So let's move to the next solicitation that we're asking for the board to approve issuing of contract for. That will be for housing quality standards.
Before you,
Yes, you want to do each resolution as we go?
yes.
Sure, okay.
Commissioners, you heard the solicitation. I will entertain motions to approve this award, or if you have questions for Mr. Jones, we'll entertain those as well.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve. Let me get this right.
The award of contract.
That we authorize the interim president and CEO to enter into a contract with GKL Companies, Inc. to provide roof renovation for the McCoy Building. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item passes.
Thank you, Chairman Hood. Next, we're going to move to housing quality standards. Request for board action, approval of award of contract for housing standards. The Housing Authority of the Birmingham District requested proposals from qualified contractors to provide HQS services. The purpose of this request for board action is to obtain board approval to proceed with the recommended contractor to provide HQS services, where HQS means housing quality standards. A request for proposal was published to secure HQS service providers. The RFP was posted for 57 consecutive days and emailed to 1,239 contractors or individuals with 32 viewers. In addition, it was available in the HABD central office, posted on the HABD and Housing Agency Marketplace websites, and advertised in the Birmingham News and Birmingham Times. 6 contractors or individuals submitted proposals in response to this RFP. All 6 contractors were deemed responsible and responsive. The proposals submitted were evaluated by the committee appointed by the VP of Finance. U.S. Inspection Group received an overall score of 87 points and submitted a responsive and responsible offer. Therefore, management recommends the award of a 1-year contract to U.S. Inspection Group, Inc. to provide HQS services. And the certification is affixed here as well. Request action confirms with legal policy and regulatory requirements as signatured by myself and President Dontrell Foster. Again, we ask the board to move upon the resolution for this item.
Any questions for Mr. Jones regarding this contract for housing quality standards?
How much is the contract for?
Excuse me. You don't have your mouth. So this is not a fixed amount contract, and I will get you the dollar amount per bill of service as soon as I can this afternoon. Let, if I may, Commissioner Thompson, I could give you their winning bid amount. Okay. That bid amount is $424,140. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, I entertain a motion to authorize the interim president CEO to enter into a contract with U.S. Inspection Group to provide housing quality standard services.
So move.
It's been moved and properly second that we authorize the interim president CEO to enter into a contract with U.S. Inspection Group, Inc. to provide housing quality standard services. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item passes.
So next, we're going to move to the third solicitation procured by the procurement department, and that was for temporary employee services. Request for board action, approval of award of contract for temporary employee services. The Housing Authority of the Birmingham District requested proposals from qualified contractors to provide temporary employee services. The purpose of this request for board action is to obtain board approval to proceed with the recommended contractor to provide temporary employee services. A request for proposal was published to secure temporary employee service providers. The RFP was posted for 41 consecutive days and emailed to 436 firms and individuals with 44 viewers. In addition, it was available in the HABD Central Office, posted on the HABD and Housing Agency Marketplace websites, and advertised in the Birmingham News and Birmingham Times. 10 firms submitted proposals in response to the RFP. Of the 10, 9 firms were deemed responsible and responsive. The proposals submitted were evaluated by a committee. The committee evaluated the proposals based on 3 lots, which include Lot 1, clerical and administrative, Lot 2, finance related, and Lot 3, buildings and grounds, maintenance or industrial. We will award a contract to firms that ranked 70 points or above for each lot. The following agencies scored 70 or above for Lot 1, clerical administrative. "22nd Century Technologies, Inc." This is the lot for clerical and administrative. These are the firms that submitted that scored 70 and above, which qualifies them to go into pool, for lack of a better word, of temporary employee services for temporary services. 22nd Century Technologies, Infogenie, Inc., Spirion Staffing, LLC, Cogent Infotech Corporation, Talentage, LLC, Lane Federal Solutions, Career and Staffing, DBA Snelling. Those were the firms that scored 70 and above for Lot 1, clerical and administrative. We'll move to Lot 2, finance related. The list of firms here qualified in the finance area by scoring a total of 70 or more based on the factors presented. Lot 2, finance related, 22nd Century Technologies, Inc., Infogenie, Inc., Cogent Infotech Corporations, Spirion Staffing, LLC, Talentage, LLC, Lane Federal Solutions. That rounds out the Lot 2 finance-related temporary employee firms that made 70 or above. Lot 3, building and grounds, which deals with maintenance and industrial temporary employee placings. Finalists in that group were 22nd Century Technologies, Inc., Infogenie, Inc., Spirion Staffing, Talentage, LLC, Cogent Infotech Corporation, Career and Staffing, doing business at Snelling, and Lane Federal Solutions. Management recommends the award of a 1-year contract to 22nd Century Technologies, Inc. and Infogenie, Inc. The top-rated proposer is entitled to be the first option for any new hires that occur pertaining to each lot. If the top-rated proposer cannot provide satisfactory, timely services for any new hire, then HABD will rotate to the next rated firm in each lot. In addition, management recommends the award of a one-year contract to Career and Staffing, doing business as Snelling and Sphurion Staffing, to cover temporary employees that are currently employed with HABD, with these agencies. And the attachments are available for review if anyone wants to see them in the office. The certification there, again, the signatures are fixed of myself and President Foster. The next step would be ask the board to move on the resolution.
Any questions, commissioners?
No, I think my only question is, for, Ms. Foster, I know that these temporary services are services that we need. Are there any efforts to perhaps create these as roles, or what are we looking at in terms of long-term effectiveness to get the resources you need?
Yeah, we actually do not anticipate the long-term use of
Okay.
these roles. It just, in instances that we need them for a temporary, like less than 3 month services and so forth. So
Okay, so you,
no long-term.
you have the support you need. This is just additional
Yes,
support to, okay,
absolutely.
that's my only question.
All right, well, I will entertain a motion to authorize the interim president CEO to enter into a contract with 22nd Century Technologies, Infogenie, and Sphurion Staffing and Career Staffing, doing business as Snelling, to provide temporary employee services.
Second,
It's been moved and properly second that we authorize the interim president CEO to enter into contract with these four listed entities. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
aye.
Any opposed? That item passes.
Thank you, Commissioner Hood. We will move now down to a final action here today, and this will be the purchase of carbon monoxide smoke detectors. Request for board action, approval to purchase carbon monoxide detectors or CO2 detectors. The Housing Authority of the Birmingham District requests the approval to purchase carbon monoxide smoke detectors. The purpose of this request for board action is to obtain board approval to purchase carbon monoxide detectors and have them installed. HABD is requesting approval to purchase 5,000 carbon monoxide smoke detectors for the following housing communities. And let me preface this before we go forward. These are grant dollars that are earmarked for certain properties. So this is why we have a list of individual properties that these can go to based on the grant funds. Okay, so the following properties will be Harris Homes, Kimbrough Homes, Marks Village, Todd Homes, North Birmingham Homes, Smithfield Court, and Tuxedo Terraces 1 and 2. The total cost for the carbon monoxide detectors is $280,611.25, which includes installation. Okay. Again, the certification confirms the legal policy and regulatory requirements affixed by my signature and that of President Foster. And we will entertain any questions and ask the board to move on this recommendation.
Any questions, commissioners? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to authorize the interim president CEO to purchase carbon monoxide and smoke detectors.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we authorize the interim president CEO to purchase the 5,000 carbon monoxide and smoke detectors. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes.
Thank you, Chairman Hood.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions for the finance procurement area, then that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Now we have assisted housing, section 8.
Ms. Candy Drake, Director of Rental Assistance Program.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Today I have two requests for board action approvals. One is the approval of the 2022 exception payment standards, and the second one is approval of the 2022 exception payment standards for small area FMRs. All of these requests are recommended for increased program utilization and spending and relief of rent burdens for our subsidized families on our Section 8 program. The latter part of last year, during our regular request for board actions for payment standards and payment standards for smaller FMRs, we informed you all that we were going to apply for a waiver to increase our payment standards outside of the normal range. Well, during that process, HUD also posted PIH Notice 2021-34, which was entitled Expedited Regulatory Waivers, of which included information about increased payment standards. HABD applied through the expedited waiver request and was approved. The approval date lasts as of when you're approved from HUD up until December 31st, 2022. We are here today to obtain approval to proceed with the said request. Currently, our payment standards for the voucher program are set at 110%, which is the maximum under regular circumstances allowable by HUD. I would like to request to increase those payment standards to 120% for specified zip code areas. In our committee meeting, we were asked to discuss how we came up with the specified zip codes. So this is the request that we're asking for, which is 120% of the 40th percentile for fair market rents, and to be effective May 1st. So this includes the 20%. In the middle, you will see those zip codes that we are requesting currently to increase to. All the zip codes that are in our service area were evaluated based on the extent of poverty concentration of households within those said census tracts. The zip codes with the highest concentration of poverty are proposed to remain at the 110% of FMR, and those with moderate to low concentration are proposed to increase to 120% of FMR. So at the end, if you will allow me, it's better to explain both of them together. And then also at the end, I have an example of how this will positively reflect in rent for our program participants. So this is the 22 exception payment standards different. In the first chart, you see bedroom sizes going across horizontally, and vertically you have in the first row the current payment standards where they are set at the maximum HUD allowed amount of 110%. And the second row, you see you see that the proposed payment standards of 120%. I have also provided those positive differences. This is a positive difference that our program participants will see reflected in their rate. And these are the listing of those specified zip codes of how many families will be positively affected per zip code. The next one is for the small area FMRs, and we are proposing all of these zip codes are in our small area FMR, and we are proposing to update all of those. And those are the specified 120% payment standards that we like to go up to. It's a long chart, but the top half is where they are currently. Starting in the middle, the bottom, and on the next page is where we're proposing them to go to. And the third batch is the differences. As you can see, all of them are positively reflected numbers. Here I have an example. To the left is the current payment standard set at 110%, and to the right is the exception set at 120%. We kept the everything the same. The only variance that we have is the payment standard amount. The monthly adjusted income for both sides is $1,500. To the left at 110%, the payment standard is $1,342. If we approve, then that payment standard will go up to $1,464. Just as a reminder and a summary, the payment standard allocates for the client's subsidy they will receive, and it also allocates for their ability to pay their utilities. Okay. So also, as you can see, the TTP, which is the total tenant payment, still stays the same at $450. That's the percentage of what the family is at least required to pay toward their living expenses. Utility allowance on both sides stays at $491. This is an estimated based on our review and the market and the utilities in that area. Rent amount still $1,000. Again, this estimate is for a 3-bedroom. If you go down to where the arrows are drawn, to the left where they currently are, HAP is housing assistance payments, which is what HABD pays on the family's behalf. It would be $892 and the family would pay $108. To the right, if we were approved this board action, then we would pay the $1,000. The family would have 0 rent. And this family, in this instance, would get a utility reimbursement of $14. So very positive, and it also helps us with our long-term goals as it relates to our utilization for our HCB program. If there aren't any questions, then I'll go back to the requests for board actions. So my first request for board action is for approval of the 2022 exception payment standards at 120%.
Questions, commissioners?
No.
So in plain language, by us taking this up to 120%, this allows a tenant to be able to have more in their voucher to perhaps rent a larger unit, square footage wise, or a higher quality unit from a landlord,
Absolutely.
but then also have less that they have to contribute
Less rent
from the
burden.
family. So this is a win for the landlord, it's a win for the tenant,
Yeah.
and it's a win for us as well.
Absolutely.
Got it.
And so in the future, our plan is depending upon HUD's FMRs that they posted effective October 2022, we may continue to request updated waivers. Of course, it won't be through the special expedited waiver request, but it'll be through the standard, which will take longer for them to approve. But that way we can continue to have our payment standards at a higher level to benefit the clients and also ourselves as an agency. Yes, ma'am.
It was a slide that showed the number of families it would affect.
Yes.
Okay, so basically with this, like in the 35222 is 46. So is that saying that they're gonna get increases in the properties that they're already
Automatically.
in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then what about the people that's coming in?
They will automatically get it as soon as they lease up until anybody we lease up until December 31st, 2022. Because at December 31st, 2022, the next people that lease up January 1, we're going to either have to go with HUD's new proposed, new printed or posted FMRs, which they make them effective in October. So they usually post them in like late August, September, or we're going to have to request, another waiver, which is our plan. Now, this doesn't include for the next board resolution, this one, these will be even more families affected in these zip codes. So these zip codes are different than those.
Okay. All right, any other questions, commissioners? If not, I will entertain a motion to authorize the chairman to execute documents for the approval of the 2022 exception payment standards. And this is for the small area fair market rents.
The first one is just the exception payment standards.
Okay,
Yes,
this
sir.
one just for the exception payment standards.
So,
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve the revision of the adoption of the 2022 exception payment standards. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
aye.
Any opposed? That item passes.
Thank you. My second request is request for approval for 2022 exception payment standards for small area FMRs.
Correct. I'll entertain a motion in that regard.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly second that we adopt the 2022 exception payment standards for small area fair market rents. That's effective May 1st, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. President Foster?
So at this time, we'll have Cindy Herrera to report on our real estate development update. Cindy Herrera.
It should
Can
come.
everyone see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. All right. I'll just do a quick overview here. Public housing portfolio repositioning. We're continuing to meet with the developers and finalize business terms and draft master development agreements that we will bring back to the board. To date, we have about half of them completed, and we're still in discussion on 4 of the other developers. So we will continue that effort, and our goal is to have the draft MDA before the board at the June meeting. Southtown redevelopment, the demolition continues, making great progress. And there's just some photos here that kind of show, I'm sure everyone has driven by the site and seen the progress. This just shows some work that's underway as of last week. And just overall, as far as the site's concerned, we did have to close 23rd Street South from 9th Avenue to 10th Avenue for the manhole installation. The residents were provided with advance notice of those street closures and arrangements for other alternate parking until those can be reopened. Block D, basically the erosion control fencing's been installed, but due to heavy rains, there was a lot of standing water. It was starting to dry out of last week, so the heavy rains did provide some days of delay. In Block C, the demolition is ongoing. They are salvaging some bricks from Block C, about 150 of them, and we will add plaques to those bricks in commemoration of Southtown and make those available to folks upon request. We continue to work with the unsuitable soil issue that we had brought to the board previously. We're looking at ways that we can reduce the cost for this unsuitable soil removal. We have an additional follow-up meeting scheduled actually for tomorrow with the civil engineers to talk more specifically about the specifications. Because of the cost of the removal of the unsuitable soils, it's going to have to be a separate bid process. It cannot be done under a change order. So we're trying to get that finalized so that as the current contractor is finishing up demo, we can finalize the specifications and go out to bid for the unsuitable soil work, and then be able to do that as soon as he finishes the demo so that those will follow back to back. As far as the redevelopment, the family housing project, this is the 60 units being done by Breck Development. This was a situation where the credits were actually 21 credits, which would have required a place in service by the end of this year. Because of the astronomical construction increases in construction cost, Breck has gone back to Alabama Housing Finance to exchange those credits for updated credits, which would allow the construction period to run through 23. Alabama Housing Finance has not gotten back yet. There are several developers around the state that were had the same situation, and Alabama Housing Finance has not gotten back yet to anybody on what the time frame and what that looks like. So we're just keeping our fingers crossed that we'll hear something from them soon. The Benoit Group submitted their tax exempt bond and 4% credit application to Alabama Housing Finance earlier this month, and it's currently under review by AHFA. And then we have a small parcel of land that we had shared with the board previously that we found out was owned by ALDOT. We've been working with them for several months now to get that, to be able to purchase that small piece of land. We spoke with them earlier this month and they said it is in the pipeline for approval, but they can't give us a date. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other development activity that's been underway, and it particularly relates to bond allocation and a state housing tax credit. We have began the wheels kind of churning for some options because we know that in order to undertake successfully all of our development activity, we're going to need to access additional bond allocation. So we've been peeling away the onion as to how the bond allocation comes to the state of Alabama and where it goes. Under Alabama Housing Authorities Act, we, Birmingham Housing Authority, and all local housing authorities are authorized to issue tax exempt bonds, but we've got to be able to secure allocation from the state. Basically, bond cap is provided by the federal government, and it's a formula of $110 per capita or or 335 million, whichever is greater. It's adjusted annually for inflation. The 2022 cap in Alabama is $554 million. Tax exempt private activity bonds are really critical to the development of affordable housing because with them comes an automatic 4% tax credit, which raises the equity to be able to redevelop. What we've learned is that the State Industrial Development Authority is actually the entity that receives the bond allocation from the federal government each year, and they administer that CAP program. The CEDA actually has no staff, and so the State Department of Finance is the one that actually manages the day-to-day. Historically, what they've done is they've allocated the CAP when it comes in each year based on the percentages you see here on the screen. Alabama Housing Finance actually gets 25% of that. The other 75% is split into the categories you see here, small issue manufacturing, exempt facilities, a discretionary fund, and then student loans. And so when Alabama Housing Finance gets their CAP, they have a priority to use it for their single family mortgage program. When you convert bond cap to single family mortgage credits, it's on a 4-to-1 basis. So every dollar of mortgage credit requires $4 of bond allocation. And then to the extent that their volume cap that they receive, the 25% that they receive each year exceeds their single family mortgage program, then they make it available for affordable multifamily housing. So basically the availability of bond cap through AHFA is pretty limited. And they've already told us that for 2022, they're maxed out. So we reached out to Ben Spratling, who's the bond counsel for the Alabama Industrial Development Board. And we've also been working with Ben Parker, who's a consultant in Birmingham that's been working on this issue to identify strategies of how we can build support with the CEDA board so that we can go directly to access the bond allocation. We've got a representative from the State Department of Finance that's been working with us and is very helpful in helping us understand the allocation process. And we're hoping that we will be able to submit an application directly to the CEDA board to receive bond allocation. And then we would actually issue the bonds for the projects. So it's kind of a complex process, but every state has something similar. And it's been really helpful to understand exactly how it works in Alabama and be able to move forward. In addition to that, we've been working on a state housing tax credit actually last fall when there was a legislative meeting with the state legislators. Birmingham HABD met with state legislators. We had prepared a white paper or a summary sheet to begin the discussions. This has actually picked up quite a bit of traction in recent weeks. Basically, State Senators J.T. Wagoner and Roger Smitherman have drafted preliminary legislation, but it's not been introduced yet. They wanted to hold off before they introduced it to be able to, secure more support. The Alabama Affordable Housing Association, along with lobbyists from Sugar Creek Investors. Sugar Creek is a national investor, but they focus on investing in state housing tax credits across the country. So they are leading a campaign to garner further support in the legislature for an Alabama state tax credit. And again, we are optimistic that this will get introduced hopefully in the next session. So any questions on bonds or tax credits before I move on? We've spent a lot of time kind of working through this because we know how important it's going to be able to meet all of our redevelopment objectives in our Thrive 2035 plan.
Any questions, commissioners?
Okay.
Go ahead.
If not, I'll just move on real quick. A couple other things. Tuxedo Court 1, this is where we're waiting for the equity release of the $2.5 million. Everything's been finalized with the investor, but they're waiting for the final 2021 audit, which is underway. And hopefully that audit should be hopefully finalized by the end of this month. The Tuxedo Court homeownership, we've finalized all the surveying, all of the individual lots have been provided with an appropriate legal description. And we've basically filed, the surveyor has filed the application with the city for the new subdivision. Once that process is finalized, we'll have titles that would allow us for the sale of those units. We've thrown in here too, the Mason City homeownership units, because we've actually been working on both of these together. Homes that we previously sold homes at Mason City under a 1998 5H program. We've been in conversation with HUD regarding the process to sell the rest of the Mason City as well as the Tuxedo homes. And HUD has told us we could possibly reuse our 5H program, but they're recommending that we consider a conversion to the Section 32 homeownership program. So we're actually analyzing that at this point, and we'll come back with a recommendation to the board as we have a chance to look at the pros and cons of both. And then I've just attached a copy of the summary sheet that we had prepared for the Alabama Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. Any questions? If not, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Cindy.
At this time, we'll have Southside Development. Carol Clark will introduce the team.
Good afternoon, commissioners,
Good afternoon.
HABD staff, and visitors. It's our pleasure to be here to give you an update on the Southtown redevelopment. I feel like Cindy did an excellent job, but we're gonna be a little bit more comprehensive and go back. We've been on this journey with HABD and the residents for over 5 years, actually, and it's a little hard to believe. And, you know, we always felt we had to be slow and thoughtful in this process, but I don't think, you know, none of us could really predict what happened in the last couple of years. And we've still been able to persevere and make good progress. So I'll just give a little historical overview and some context, and then my colleagues will come up to help update you on the housing that you're co-developing with our team. And also, we'll have another partner just go over the commercial strategy and how we're positioning to really make this site a part of a bigger district, the medical district for Birmingham. You'll take me to the next slide, please. So just to go back to the beginning, as Ms. Foster said, I'm Carol Clark, and my role is to serve as general manager of the Southside Development Company. And we are a consortium of developers, and we came together specifically to bid on becoming your partner for this redevelopment. And Southside Development Company, we call it SDC, that's our nickname. We have 3 equal partners, and Cindy has alluded to some of them in her remarks. There's Corporate Realty, which is a full-service commercial real estate company focusing on brokerage, development, and facility management. Corporate Realty's president, Robert Simon, is here, if you'll just raise your hand. Next, we have the Benoit Group, represented today by their Chief Development Officer, Torian Priestley. And Torian's right here on the front row. And the Benoit Group happens to be African-American owned, but they're also one of the foremost redevelopers of public housing authority properties in the country. So we're really blessed to have their subject matter expertise on the team. Our third last but not least is the sister companies Breck and SPM. They both have a track record of excellence in the development of and management of affordable tax credit and project-based Section 8 multifamily housing, and they are represented today by Breck's Managing Director, Stephen Heidinger. There's Stephen. And also today with us, we have David Yetterberg. And Yetterberg has assisted us over these 5 years with a lot of communications with residents, especially during the master planning phase and afterward when we did newsletters and door hangers and postcards and all that stuff. But more recently, a firm that he's affiliated with, Clarity, led us through a site rebranding study. So he's here to answer those questions. Next slide, please. So the Southtown site is really special and unique. It's really location, location, location. So in its next life, in keeping with today's development trends, it has the potential to offer residents a lot more than just housing. So I'm proud that this initiative will be able to provide returning residents with a brand new state-of-the-art residence, but also in the context of a vibrant community with lots of walkable services and amenities and easily accessed employment and education opportunities as well. And I'm also excited about what this means for Birmingham in terms of economic development and economic growth and services to the broader community. This site is in the busiest part of Birmingham. And right now, as you know, to buy a pair of pajamas, you either got to go, you certainly got to go out of the downtown, but you may even have to go out of Birmingham. So being able to offer a wide variety of services is what the situation of this site offers. And understandably and most urgently, the goal of phase 1 is to deliver replacement housing. Subsequent phases after the replacement housing is delivered will provide some of these other mixed opportunities such as retail, general office, medical office, hotels, open green space, and all of this in a comfortable, walkable, transit-connected setting. So several stakeholders have been coordinated with throughout. And we've had an advisory council and we've engaged the resident leadership in master planning and so forth. So would you give me the next slide, please? So just to quickly, okay, next slide. To go through kind of the 5-year continuum very quickly, we were selected in late 2016. We kicked off the project in February of 2017. I joined in March of 2017. 2018 was our master planning year. We spent a lot of time engaging the community around master planning and visioning for the future. 2019 was our negotiation year. We spent, I'd say, a few quarters of that year getting the MDA negotiated and wrapped up and adopted by the board. And in the last quarter of that year, we started to apply for the 9% low-income housing tax credit, which is a very competitive process. We prevailed in that process, and in early 2020, we were awarded the 9% award. Cindy alluded to some of the extensions that have been granted due to COVID, and we're in sort of a wait and see period. Well, Stephen will talk about that in more detail in just a minute. But so that brings us to 2021 and ongoing. We've been able to, HABD is, well, I'm sorry, we missed the hard part during 2020, which was the resident relocation. During COVID, and hats off to the team. I mean, just a tremendous job, a very thoughtful and difficult process under the constraints of the pandemic. Yeoman's work was done, so can't forget that. And demolition is underway, and the senior project has submitted the 4% tax credit application. So that's kind of the continuum over the last 5 years. And let's have the next slide, please. Really, I'm going to get mine, if you'll go forward. Thank you. So that's going to bring us to master planning updates. And I'm gonna let you go one more slide, and I'm gonna ask my colleagues to come up after I orient you to this slide. So this is the Southtown site, sort of organized by blocks and by color codes that represent the mixture of land uses that are anticipated on the site. And you can see there's a lot more definition and perforation in the lower left corner where denoting block D. So that is where the phase 1 development will take place. That linear building along 23rd Street is the shape of the family building. And that C that's sort of turned backwards, that has the longest section along 24th Street, is the site of the senior building. And we do not plan to keep calling these family building and senior building. We're going to go through the naming process that you all have laid out for us. And we're working with Kelly Terry, who's been designated to coordinate it. And as soon as I believe you all will be represented in that process. And so we'll move through and be able to call these something else very soon. And I'm going to ask Stephen Heidinger to come up and discuss the family building. Torian Priestley will follow him and give an update on the senior building. And then Robert Simon will come up and sort of take us through the commercial strategy and the positioning of the site as it relates to all of the other build out. And then of course, we'll be available for questions. Thank you. Stephen Heidinger of Breck Development.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you, board members, for the opportunity to come give you guys an update. First of all, I wanted to say, just to take a minute and look around at the great work that all of you guys have done and been involved, and many of you on the phone call. This is just an outstanding development, 2 phases over, how many years? James, where's James? Oh, how many years did it take to pull this off, both phases?
5 years,
Well, I was hoping to beat them, but we're not going to do it. But good things come to those who wait, right? So this is great, and I really admire the plan you guys have that you're attacking your. Huh? Huh? Yeah, 5 years for you. Okay. Well, my point is it looks great, and the program that brought this to fruition here is the same program that we are using out of Alabama Housing, we being myself and Torian, and it delivers great housing stock. So it's exciting to be here with you guys, exciting to finally see this maybe picking back up steam. And at the end of the day, you can see the development that we have here. It's 60 units, as Carol said, and Cindy hit a lot of the items that we were going to approach. But you can see the unit mix up here. It's 24 one-bedroom units, 27 two-bedroom units, and 9 three-bedroom units. And several years ago, we did a study in conjunction with the Housing Authority, looked at the mix of residents there, and it was deemed this was the mix that we needed to come back with for family. And then Torian will talk about the need for the senior housing. But the building was designed with the residents squarely in mind, and the floor plans are exceptional, and the first floor is completely dedicated to residents and activities. The first floor will have of course, it will have a management office, obviously, but we have various community rooms where the residents can have activities. We have a study lounge, we have a fitness center. So all of these activity areas, a business center, are there for the residents to, get them out of their units and give them a place to go and enjoy the development. The challenge we have right now, and it's been talked about numerous times, and James and I were talking about it before the meeting, is construction pricing. And it's a real issue, and as Cindy mentioned, we have gone back to Alabama Housing, just like many developers have. Most developers, I would say, are in this situation. Alabama Housing. We also do conventional developments, and we've got the same problem there. But you know, we are hopeful that we get good news from Alabama Housing, and we're able to obtain more credits and attack this and be able to go. The question is always, well, where are you in the process? Well, we have our plans and specs are, you know, 95% complete, if not more. So if we could get the appropriate funding, we could close this transaction from this point. If we had the money today, I would say within 120 days, maybe 90, it just depends. So when Carol talks about, we've been doing this for 5 years, we have, it's been a long road. But the hardest part, and Dontrell, you were with us in Montgomery when we were awarded. I mean, that was one of the hardest parts. Now we have the authority to move ahead, but we don't have the money. So, but once we secure that funding, we will be able to pick up, hopefully quickly and get this started for the whole city to see.
Just clarify, once it is started, what does that timeline look like?
We have to get it done within 2 years. We think construction on this development should take 15 months or so. And of course, the usual caveats about the rain and all those things, but 15 to 18 months would be our expectation. Sure. Thank you, guys.
I do have a question. I'm sorry. I know you said you have to get it done in 2 years. Does the clock start ticking? When does the clock start ticking?
Well, given these circumstances, I don't know, because it usually started in the old days when we were under the regular program, so to speak. It started essentially, we were awarded in 2020 in the summer, and we had 2 full years, and we had to be done by December 31st, 2022. So you can see we haven't even started, and theoretically the clock would be done in a few months. But when you can assume that it's 2 years from the time that we're notified that we have been awarded. So I don't know how Alabama Housing is going to do it right now, but if they come out with a new, it doesn't matter, it's technical, but if they come out with new award, then it will be essentially 2 years from that point.
Mm-hmm. And then you probably have to go back and get extensions on others, or it's just.
Oh, I hope not.
Okay.
I mean, I hope we're ready to.
Okay.
Hope we're ready to go down and pull permits. I mean, it will never take us 2 years considering where we are in the process right now, because, you know, we thought we were moving toward a closing before everything went crazy with supplies and pricing and all of that. So.
Thank you.
Yes, sure.
I just want to acknowledge 2 of our commissioners on Zoom, so certainly welcome any of our commissioners if you have any questions. Just come off of mute and speak if you need to. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Lewis. Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you. I know he stated that he had the seniors in mind in pursuing this project. So I would like for him to elaborate a little bit on security for the residents and also the safety, like the pull cords or the alert bracelets for the seniors. So could you elaborate on what you're planning on doing or how are you doing that?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to let Torian Priestley, he is doing the senior development, and I will step out of the way and let him address those issues.
And maybe this can go for any of you guys. I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to confirm, because you mentioned potential overages. We know that we have overages. Price of everything is going up. Inflation is a huge issue right now. We have shared investment in all aspects of the development, right? So any overages is cost that we as a development partner will share with all of our partners. Is that my understanding?
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, from our perspective, on most of the transactions that we work on, if there are overages, we typically don't, share those overages with, the housing authority. We look to find ways to, minimize and mitigate that issue and work with the general contractor on those overages to minimize those as much as possible.
And it would also depends on the, where we are in the process of the construction as well, depending on if the developers were contributing to that overage. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
One second before we leave that. Anthony, what you may be talking about, we are partners in this transaction. The housing authority is 25%. Our group is 75%. And so if there is an overage, Torian's right, we do try to mitigate that. But if we're not able to, the only other place you can take those overages is out of development fee. So we hope we can figure it all out, but if we can't, that's where those funds would come from. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. First, I want to say thank you to the president and CEO, to the chairman and the commissioners, and also the residents here today. I want to introduce myself. I'm Torian Priestley, the Chief Development Officer for the Benoit Group, and we're working on the senior development for Southtown. Before I get into the overall project, I do want to address Commissioner Lewis's question about pull cord security. As we've mentioned in some of our meetings, our senior buildings will have card reader access at all exit doors. Because we have an a handicap accessibility rules as it relates to fully accessible and also hearing impaired, we'll also have what's called the nurse call system in each of the bathrooms on each of the units. So we will address all those questions you had, Commissioner Lewis, as it relates to those items for our 62 and older seniors.
Okay.
She had another, I think she had one more question.
No, that was it. Security, you said you have, so you will not have a security on duty. You would just have the security codes?
Yes, ma'am. We would look to have you again utilize that card reader and also phone box call system if a person came to visit, they would hit the call box system and the tenant would then come be able to let them in from that perspective. But the only way you can access that building, if you're a resident, you would have a card key at the entry and exit doors.
And if the resident have an emergency, you said you had what in place?
Well, you were asking, I think you asked a question about the pull cord nurse.
Yes, yes. Are the alert bracelets, either or?
Yes, we utilize the pull cord system, and all of that ties into the property management office, and it also ties into the fire system that we will have on the property.
Okay, the pull cord ties into the management office, but as management is not there on the weekend, so this is why I'm questioning that. How would that work?
That's what I was mentioning, that it'll also be tied into the fire alarm system, which then goes to the fire department and any type of services.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. Well, I'll get into talking about the exciting senior development. We've been working, as Stephen mentioned, on this for a good little while, but we're very excited about the opportunity to be able to develop, senior housing, particularly in the timeframe that we're in with rents increasing. And really, there needs to be, other ways to continue to provide affordable housing because it is such a need. And there's such a divide as it relates to what those tenants pay for out of pocket for a lot of rental properties. So having this program and this partnership is very important in being able to move affordable housing forward. Quickly, I'll just kind of give you an overview of the project itself. 143 units. that will be occupied by 62 and older. We'll have a unit mix of 118 one-bedroom units and another 25 two-bedroom units. Of that, we'll have 123 units under 60% AMI with PBV, project-based vouchers on them, and another 20 RAD units that would also have project-based vouchers on them. Those are very critical to the overall rent structure for the projects. So we're very happy to have that coverage for those senior units. From the capital stack, we have a different type of product that, typically on these deals, we would use more of a HUD 221D4 on most of our bond deals, but we're utilizing some of the Fannie and Freddie products that are out there based on where interest rates are, because interest rates are moving up and down. And you have sometimes a little bit better leverage on some of these other deals. But we're looking to get about 20 million or so on debt, and then another 10.6 in equity. And then the Housing Authority will be putting in a 1.5 million in secondary loan financing. And the project value, as you see, is roughly $32.8 million. Now, overall for this project, we'll have amenities, as Stephen mentioned, similar to the multifamily. A little bit different. We have our community room, which is within the building itself. We'll have fitness center. We'll have cyber cafes, which are our computer centers, movie theaters, and then some exterior areas for garden and patio space for the seniors to be able to sit outside in covered areas. And we're looking at a feature to be able to provide a rooftop area where you could go out and also covered to give additional amenities for the residents. Again, the one thing that we really love about developing senior housing, most seniors, when we develop those properties, they see them as 5-star hotels. They come up to us and they really love the amenities, the safety within the building itself. These are interior corridors. So you really get a very good feeling, from the residents based on the type of product that we provide. But overall, also working, I will say this, we've worked with Cindy Herrera, and she's been very, instrumental in making sure we were able to get secondary financing and some other commitments to be able to move the project forward. As she mentioned, we're also we've submitted our tax credit application to the state agency. That's currently under review. And our building permits or our drawings are in review currently with the city. So we expect hopefully within the next 30 to 45 days to be able to get permits. So we're ready to go. The biggest thing we're going to be waiting to hear from is the state agency on the allocation on the bond side. But we anticipate hopefully within the next probably 45 to 60 days to hear from the state in regards to that allocation. So if we were able to close this deal, say June, July, or August of this year, we would have a construction timeframe of approximately 19 to 20 months, which would finish up basically in 2024. Any questions?
This is just, when you get a chance, I would love to see the plan for whether you have the community room and everything.
Sure.
I'd like to see the layout.
Sure.
And I assume there'll be coordination between the development of these two buildings. There'll be some overlap as these two buildings are coming out of the ground, right?
Yeah, I think both are going to be in construction going vertically about the same time. One may start early before the other, but will both be going up vertically at pretty much the same time. So we've had numerous discussions about how we work together from a construction standpoint, layout of materials, and how we move forward overall. So we've actually talked about that probably about a year and a half ago. Yep.
Oh, Cindy mentioned something about soil early in the meeting. Is that dealing with the senior project or the other project?
No, I think actually Block D,
Okay.
we ended up missing all of the bad soil issues. If some of the other blocks that were having the issues from a bad soil situation. Yeah.
Any other questions, commissioners?
All right. Well, thank you so much again, and we're very excited and just ready to get started. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Tori. Robert Simon is going to sort of close out on the more mysterious part of the development plan, which is the commercial or the balance of the site, and tell you about the positioning that he sees and that the team sees for the commercial development.
Good afternoon. Good to see everybody. So I'll jump right in. So, on the commercial side, obviously, the last few years have been kind of interesting. Things were moving along at a pretty rapid clip before COVID hit. Obviously, lots of downturn and reassessment. And that's always, the negative side, I guess, is COVID. The positive side is reassessment's always a good thing. You always get to ask yourself questions. Is this the right thing, the right process, et cetera, et cetera. But nonetheless, COVID has had a factor in this project and what going forward looks like. Won't belabor the inflation issues we're all dealing with right now. Everybody's familiar with them. It's one of those things that we've been at this 5 years. I would hope that in 5 years, we're not dealing with inflationary issues. So, these things will kind of play out and we'll do so accordingly. As I talked about reevaluation, retail has really been kind of the most dynamic market that has been rethought, and what those things, what the challenges are, but also what the opportunities are. And we continue to look at this site. We have to be stewards of the land. At the end of the day, we're partners, value what we bring back, how we do it. It's not lost on us. In order to really get the highest value out of the land, you want to be patient. You want to make sure that the opportunities that are presented, there's always opportunities. Doesn't mean you should take it. So with that, we have been in a really an extended kind of period of time. Dr. Carpenter obviously has moved from the city, gone back home, so to speak, but he's now the CEO at Southern Research. And being able to work with Dr. Carpenter, being able to work with UAB, being able to work with stakeholders, yourselves included, is one of those, and part of that. We just continue to look at what these opportunities are for the site from a commercial application. Clearly in Birmingham, Alabama, general office, there's a lot of general office vacancy right now. So, we're not saying that we wouldn't do a general office deal here, but I think it's got to be more of a headquarter type deal and not something that would go up in a spec environment. Nonetheless, a lot of the things that we've looked at and have always known is that medical, biomedical is going to be a big part of what we do here. While it may not be essentially on this particular site, we have to be ready to be supportive of what else comes around us. So if UAB or Southern Research or whomever is building something that's going to be a generator, we have to be able to pick that up and make sure we're providing for the things that we can do. This particular slide right here kind of it illustrates really the opportunities that we see. And this was actually done with a co-investment on our part, but also on Southern Research and UAB. So they were at the table with us working in master planning to kind of really think about how these things occur. The Southern Research portions and university medical portions of this site are more of the blue and light blue pieces. But nonetheless, the thing that I really want to illustrate is the dotted yellow line. And what that really represents is a transportation corridor that allows these sites and these areas to be connected, whether those areas are connected by foot, by scooter, possibly EV or what have you. We think the linking of this site and getting the traffic pattern off of University would be very, very beneficial to all of this. When you go around the country and you look at whether it's in the Northeast or the Bay Area on the biomedical side, these places are hubs. They're activity. They're going on all the time. and they're connected really by foot more than anything. We do have some topographical challenges, but the Bay Area's got it too. So, but that's really what this does. So love the opportunity that we have to work with, again, UAB and Dr. Carpenter in order to have these discussions, because that's a real positive effect. And I think it'll really enhance our opportunity here. Next slide, please.
Real quick, Robert.
Yes.
When we think about the dollars that are coming out from an infrastructure standpoint,
Mhm.
is there a possibility that some of those dollars could be tied in with this? And I don't know if the timing, it will match up.
It's all about timing. I mean, it's all about timing. I mean, we spend a lot of time with consultants, with lobbyists, with whomever, trying to make sure that I want every dollar we can get, and any matching dollar we need to have, I want to make sure we're doing so. It's hard to match those things up from a timing perspective, but it's a great question. It's something we look at all the time.
Okay.
Absolutely. I want y'all to watch this clip. This was actually something that was done a few weeks ago that Dr. Watts came out with, but I think it's indicative of kind of what we're talking about right now. Carol, you said this is going to work. Okay. Go back. There you go. Well, no sound. We'll get this to you. Al. There he is speaking, but we can't hear it. So yeah, it's okay. So we'll get this to you. I'll send y'all the link to this clip. It was obviously done on WBRC. But really, it's Dr. Watts talking about the area and talking about really the strive for Birmingham, UAB, and Southern Research to be really a biotechnology hub. And we believe that in doing so, and that area really runs from St. Vincent's Ascension all through UAB, that this area, this will be the flyover, I think is what you're getting ready to see. But you're familiar with it, and this just takes you in that direction, kind of shows you that we are absolutely in the middle of the path of where we think the economic impact in Birmingham is going to be. We spend a lot of time on our side of the business really thinking about how's Birmingham going to grow. And Birmingham is going to grow through UAB. I mean, it's just a fact. And I think we should do everything we can do to embrace it. And I think we should do everything to support it. And I think that's where our position is in this site, is making sure we're doing that. We're not selling land to UAB. That's not happening. What we're doing is making sure that we're supporting the things that come there. So we want to get verticality out of the site. If they need additional housing, we want to build it. If they want retail, we want to make sure we have the right kind of retail for those people. There are more people in this particular area of town than anywhere else in Birmingham, and there's less sales tax dollars that are generated in this area. So that that tells you we're missing the boat on a couple of things. Can we go to the next slide? So now we kind of talk about site branding, and Mr. Yetterberg, I think, had to leave, but so we went through a pretty arduous task during 21. One of the things, again, that COVID allowed us to do is what I refer to as moving without the ball. Just because something's got you slowed down doesn't mean that you don't need to make progress. It just means you need to do what you need to do at that particular time. And one of the things was how and why and where are we going to take the branding of this area to? Clearly, what we put on the site is going to be the issue and not the name. But nonetheless, you've got to get out, you've got to market, you've got to make yourself known. People have to create identity. And it's been done forever and ever and ever. So we went through that. We met with the Planning Advisory Council. We met with all the people, including yourselves, and predecessors and successors and et cetera, to kind of go through these ideas of what this could be. All of that really is leading up to next month, when we are at ICSC, which is the International Council of Shopping Centers. The importance of that is every retailer literally in the world is represented there. So we have a representative there that's helping us. It's not necessarily what we do, but it's what they do. And so we want to make sure anybody and everybody that wants to see this site from a retail perspective on a national scale or an international scale sees it. And so you've got to have branding and you've got to have your stuff together. So that's what we've really been doing. Through lots of discussion, we came up with Edge Hill at Southtown, and Edge Hill says a lot of things. Again, I'm not going to read to you guys. You can certainly take the time to read that leading edge statement. But, you know, we believe that the Edge Hill is a concept that regardless of whether it's retail, housing, biotechnology, whatever it is, it's a gathering place. It's something that's going on that's positive, that's different, unique, while again tipping its hat to Southtown. And so the branding, the mark, those will be things as we work on our development plan, our roads go in, you'll see these things from time to time. You'll see the signs. You know, ultimately, in many areas of town, if you were going to Jim and Nick's and 5 Points, you may tell somebody I'm going to Jim and Nick's and 5 Points. If you're going to Highlands Bar and Grill, you're probably not telling them you're going to 5 Points. You just are going to Highlands Bar and Grill. So I think that there's a lot of people will use a name to understand where it's located, but it's really going to be about, hey, we're going to that new hotel or we're going such and such. So we really are excited about the branding. We're excited about the newness of it, while again tipping its hat. You know, again, a lot of this was done with participants that allowed us to have a lot of back and forth with. And so, you know, what's in a name? It's what you do with it. So these are just some illustrations up here about how we think these things will play out. Are there any other active slides? Okay, yeah. So questions, comments?
Well, I'm excited about the opportunity of having a commercial mix in there. I just want to make sure that we're mindful of the residents that's there, that is not retail that doesn't take them into consideration.
Absolutely.
You know, and something that's not pricing them out, especially since it's in a walkable area. And even want to, of course, we go after big money retailers, but also considering local businesses and people that are relatable to the residents.
Absolutely. So to that end, thank you. To that end, you know, we have formed a joint venture with Nick Pahakis, who started Jim and Nick's Barbecue. He does Rodney Scott's. He has Little Donkey, Hero hamburgers and donuts, and a lot of different things. And he's coming out with an Italian concept. All of these things are local. We like to curate with him and come up with new and different ideas. Price point is a big thing. Healthy choices are a big thing. We probably won't have fast food on this site. I mean, if we do, it's going to be with a nod to healthy choices. You know, pricing obviously is an issue. It always is, and you want to make sure that you serve everybody. I mean, I don't think that I can assure you that the retail that we have here will be retail that can support the community, and the community obviously is all of the community.
That was my question.
Ma'am?
No, that was my question.
Yeah, you know, one of the things, and I will say, you know, we have gone back and forth. I mean, you know, there's a retailer that is a national retailer that has subnational retailers in the box, so to speak. You know, we're going back and forth on, is that the best use on this site? You know, clearly there's a high demand or unmet demand from the UAB population, UAB student population, UAB faculty population about unmet retail opportunities in this area. But again, I go back to the idea of what does this site really need to be? And so it's going to be interesting to see the opportunities, scale wise. We like verticality. We've got to get vertical on the site in order to maximize the value and density and those kinds of things. But we still need to make sure that, as you mentioned, that there's opportunities that meet everybody in the community that's going to be living here on a 365-day-a-year basis.
I got one more question. I'm the newbie here, so a lot of stuff I don't understand, but I know on some of the properties that we have, we'll have a third-party manager come in for a while and then it converts back to us. So in this case, how does that work as far as the management of the site? I mean, is it?
Well, on the housing side, it will be privately managed for the life of the tax credits. And there is an opportunity later in the life of the development for HABD to take it over, if certain conditions are met.
Yeah, the housing, HABD will have a first right of refusal and a purchase option on both of the affordable housing components, both the senior and the family. So at the end of the 15-year compliance period, we will be able to exercise that and take the properties back.
So with the commercial, we don't have anything to do with that.
No, we are actually, based on HUD's approval of the disposition of Southtown, the commercial land is actually being sold under a purchase and sales agreement.
But all of the development, it will be a cohesive community through the CCNRs. We haven't adopted those yet, but that's like our homeowners association, for lack of a better word. So it will be a cohesive place that's governed by an HOA, for lack of a better word. Because I don't know what CCNR stand for. Cindy, can you help me? Covenants, something, and restrictions. Anyway, but it will be one place, a seamless place, although the ownership is slightly different for the, and you all are providing the land at a nominal cost to make the numbers work on the affordable housing.
On the lease up of the retail and just the commercial mix, who will be involved in those decisions in that process?
So the owners will be, and Robert, I was like, you left me, but we have a retail leasing partner which is Sterling Properties. So they go out and market the site, but all of the decisions will be made, by the ownership entity, which is SDC, the three partners you've met today.
Hmm.
And we're really curious to see how the market's going to react, because retail has changed, as Robert was saying, and it's got to be curated. It's got to be destination driven, because people want, like this ethos. The retail that survives is going to be, the hipper places to be. So.
I'm watching what Magnolia is doing right now across from us, and retail specialists. So I'm just kind of watching to see what's going to be the highest and best use given what's around us. And like you said, what survives, because everything that's there today might not be there 2 years from now. So.
Very true.
Will change. For sure.
But I'm looking forward to being able to buy a pair of pajamas in town. I'm just
You're
not
stuck on these
trying to go to
pajamas, aren't you?
suburbs to get, there are no soft goods. Think about it. But really, if you want to buy anything in Birmingham, you have to go out of Birmingham.
Is that something, have we thought about any grocery at all?
Yes.
Or bodegas or something.
We have
Yes,
a
grocery.
grocery consultant.
Okay.
And so every viable grocery alternative is seen as solid, and we'll continue to. Like you said, these things change. The direction internally of these companies, they change quarterly. What they may not be interested in January, you could get to July or October, and all of a sudden, hey, I want to talk to you again about that site. And so those are the things. The key is being in front of these people. What also has occurred is there has been a tremendous rotation of talent that work for these companies. I mean, these people have moved from place to place to place for different reasons, maybe because they didn't have anything going on. They wanted to go to a company that was doing more stuff. Now people, I mean, it's just, it's really starting to really bubble back up. So I don't like the delays that we've had on this project. They may have benefited us because we may have cut a deal with somebody who's not as strong as they were coming out of COVID. And we wind up with what something we didn't think we had, right? You thought you had somebody strong and you don't. And so that's, at least we get a different view of them in today's world and hopefully, going forward.
That's a great point. So we'll be dealing with the retailers who survived
Yeah.
COVID because
Yeah.
so many of them shuttered. So
I just wanted to be said on the record for me, I guess my only concern is making sure we have people somebody that's local and that they're not priced out. And again, I know even with the third party being there, they're gonna try to go after the most money they can get per square foot. And so just trying to see if it was something that we can put in there to allow people that might not be able to afford what we're asking to be able to have some type of business there, or just consider it.
well,
We're
and
gonna consider every option.
Okay.
yeah.
And I think that's just a challenge, but I also think it's the opportunity.
Yeah.
I think, you just kind of, we'll make those things, we'll see what's there. And then we'll make those decisions. But I mean, you guys know me. I mean, I like local, and I want to see that small business opportunity present itself, and I want to see if we can make it successful. And I think,
Yeah, we talked about incubating some makers and people who want to use a kiosk and having some sort of setup and offering scholarships to co-starters, because we do have a responsibility to create economic opportunities for residents. So far, a lot of our emphasis has been on supporting HABD residents who enter training at the Alabama Workforce Training Center so that, when it's time for us to go to work on the site, we have a list of trained residents that we can draw from to have work opportunities on the site. But in the management and operation of the facility, there will be job opportunities, but there might also be entrepreneurial opportunities for people to sell goods on branded kiosks that we can provide as a proof of concept and a way for them to know if they need to go to brick and mortar. So we will be working throughout the operation of the commercial development to make sure those opportunities are available for residents.
I do want to say that I appreciate the branding that I've seen so far. It feels very inclusive, and I think, to me, the way something is perceived has a big, a lot to do with whether or not people will feel like they are a part or considered. And I do feel like I'm seeing inclusive branding, and I would hope that we would continue to manage that and make sure that whatever's being put out about the property and the opportunity includes that, as well as, to some extent, even the way in which, I don't know what the opportunities are for arts and culture within the space, but making sure that it reflects the arts and culture scene that we have that's unique to Birmingham, that I also think would provide that connection point or those touch points for the communities that we will serve within that space.
So public art, maybe
Yeah.
in the public space, because green open space is a feature of the development that we didn't really spend a lot of time accentuating, but some public art opportunities, and there are some ideas floating.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's ultimately what will make it
Yeah, home.
home.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this point, we will entertain persons wishing to speak before the HABD board. We typically ask that you keep your questions to just a minute or two. And so now the floor is open for anybody wishing to speak before the board. All right, going once. Going twice. All right, thank you. At this time, the next item on our agenda is executive session.
Mr. Chair, we are ready to go into executive session. If I can just get a brief synopsis of the purpose of executive session. I can
To
lead us
discuss
into
a personnel matter.
Okay. So at this time, we would like to go into executive session under Alabama Code 3625A7, the purpose of which would be to discuss general reputation and character, personal matter under Section A1. How long do we expect executive session to last?
I would think no longer than 20 minutes.
No longer than 20 minutes, and will we be reconvening after the executive session?
We will reconvene just for the purposes of adjourning the meeting.
All right, and so we will need a roll call vote to go into executive session.
Absolutely. Thank you. With that, do I have to entertain a motion to go into executive session?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we go into executive session. All in favor, let it be known. Actually, we're going to do a roll call vote on that. So Vice Chairman Pantaz is absent. Commissioner Barnes.
Present.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Commissioner
yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis, and I vote yes. All right, so we will convene, Terrain, how are we going to do executive session? Okay, and certainly Commissioner Lewis and I don't know if Vice Chairman Pantaz.
Second.
The moved and proper second that we come out of executive session. Vice Chair Pantazis, Commissioner Barnes. Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis. All right, and I vote yes, so that item passes. We are officially back in the open meeting. No other items before the board, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and properly second that we adjourn the April monthly meeting of the Housing Authority Birmingham District. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank y'all for a good meeting. Appreciate you. Everybody online, thank you.
Okay, have a good weekend, everybody.
I want to see, but I gotta run right over there right now. Okay.